And, obviously it's a very uncertain time for everyone. And, there's a lot of anxiety, uncertainty. How might having a financial plan help to kind of ease or reduce any anxiety that ophthalmologists may be feeling, during this certain time of the pandemic?
Well, one of the things that we've noticed is, and it was a surprise to us, were how many doctors all of a sudden decided that they were being forced into retirement. Some of it was not forced, but it was forced by the virus. They didn't want to be face-to-face with patients. And so the phone started ringing, and unexpectedly from people between the ages of 60 all the way up into their 80s are saying, can we retire? Would we be able to step away right now, and would we be okay? How would we have to reduce our lifestyle, or are we going to be able to, to retire the way we hoped we were? And because they had a plan, and because we can rerun the numbers properly, see what probability, if the probability has changed, thankfully, and there were quite a few of them that retired, every one of them was able to retire and know for sure that they would be okay in retirement. So I think, we'd spoken about it before, having a plan is so important, because you have to take the guessing out. You can't do this by gut feeling or by thinking that you're going to be okay. I think you have to take serious steps and look at the contingencies. And even now, the way we do our planning, we're able to plug in all kinds of contingencies, including long-term care problems or depressions or repression or recessions, whatever it is. And I just like to add to that, Trady and I, our other partner in Grande Financial Services, we started out in Naples, Florida. And almost all of our doctors, all of our clients back then were retired. And I will never, ever forget the one woman that came into the office, and she sat down across from me. It reminded me of my grandmother. And she was in her 70s. She was just widowed. And we were doing planning, and she reached over and put her hand on my hand. And she looked me in the eye with these, very vulnerable eyes, and said, I'm putting my life in your hands, right, Mr. Grande? And I had never really experienced the extent of the importance of protecting people's security in their lives. And that was a changing point in my life and Trady's. And then, of course, John coming into the firm 25 years ago, has the same values. And we became very conservative. We're never looking to, squeeze out every little ounce of profit that you can get. We're so much more interested in preservation of principle and making, whatever return you have to get to make sure that your goals are fulfilled, to do that without taking an ounce more risk than you would be, you'd have to. But we also really we like to put in parts of the plan that have guarantees. Do something to stop the downside. Do something to give lifetime income for for partners or husband and wife. And when this epidemic came, I do have to say that there was very little panic because, like John mentioned before, if the essentials are taken care of, and they are taken care of by guarantees and by income you can depend on for as long as you live, it takes a lot of the stress out of it. So you can't overemphasize the importance of having a plan that takes in almost every contingency, including this one, which we really never expected. Just when you get to be my age and you think, well, okay, I've seen it all. And then all of a sudden you look at, oh my God, I haven't seen it all. I didn't imagine a world, like this thing. But I do have to admit, because of the philosophy that we use, which is let's plan for anything happening in the future, that really paid off. And if you think about it, right, for a second, right, if you think, well, okay, I'm going to take added risk, and I'm going to try to squeeze out the extra percents in return. And you look at the plan and you say, well, you know what? That doesn't make any difference. Whether I make that money or I don't make that money, it does not change my lifestyle. On the other hand, you look at the consequence of loss. And by taking that risk and it doesn't work out, now you're looking and you're thinking, holy God, I've lost everything. So if you have it made, and if you do this scientifically and you really plan, then I don't know, it's sort of like it's on automatic. It's almost like on pilot, automatic pilot. It just keeps going, and then you just redo it. Now we review it more often than we used to. Instead of a year, we're looking at it, I don't want to say every day, but very, very often. So I don't know. I just can't say enough about having a written plan that can be adjusted and can be monitored, and that would give you the peace of mind that you should have, and that would, take out any extra risk that you really should not have on the table. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
yeah, it did.
That's
yep.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And as John Sr. said, we have seen firsthand doctors who may have been contemplating retirement, but once they saw the full impact of the virus and the uncertainty surrounding it, decided it may be time to retire now. And again, as my father discussed during the last video conference, this type of event can have you step back and revisit what's truly important in one's life. In order to take an earlier retirement or possibly reduce your time working, it's important to clearly know what your expenses will be, as we discussed earlier. So that's really a big step. What exit strategies are available for your practice, if you own your practice, and if your resources are able to sustain you through your retirement years. As we discussed earlier, also having a plan in place that you can work together with your advisor to model different scenarios and their probability is key to knowing if you're in a position to adjust your goals. So again, looking at your resources, having an asset allocation set up where you feel like it has the amount of risk necessary to give you the return. Put some hedges in there, whether it be through funds or through annuities, as we discussed, and then really know what your expenses are and how are you going to have the cash flow planning piece of this is huge, especially as you approach retirement. You're 6 months or a year away from retirement and you haven't looked at your expenses closely and have some idea where the money is going to come from to create that monthly paycheck to replace your earned income. Then you should really look at that with your advisor, because that's, again, a key point in the overall planning. In the modeling aspect, once you do that and you do the little bit of hard work to get the plan in place, modeling is a lot easier because you just can change, well, what if I retire a year earlier? What impact does that have on my probability? And for our planning, we look for a probability between 75 and 90%. To us, that's a comfortable zone. If you're there, you have a pretty high probability and confidence level of reaching the goals. So if you had an 85% probability and you said, I really think I want to try to get out a year earlier, we can look at that. Maybe your probability is 82%, which is still within that comfort zone. And now we can say, yes, we can move forward with that plan. Or it might say it's 62%. And then we have to say, this isn't realistic. You either have to work longer, cut down hours so you have some income coming in, or maybe you're willing to give some other goals up. Maybe you're willing to have lower income during retirement if you can retire earlier. So again, the planning piece of it is really key.
Mm-hmm. And just one last question for both of you then. So as we enter 2021, are there any special pearls that ophthalmologists should consider as they enter into that year, after the presidential election? I mean, with the whole new year of being a few more months into the pandemic, any special considerations? A whole new year?
Looking at the markets and where we've been, there have been a couple of positives. I mean, a lot of people might be surprised at how high the market's gone to all-time new highs here. But the Federal Reserve has never put as much behind any kind of event as this, much more than 2008, much quicker than 2008. So one of the positives for the market is we do have the Federal Reserve behind the economy 100%. I do think that's key. We also think that there could be some medical advancements over the next several months, which also would be very welcoming. And also the testing side. There's some pharmaceuticals that are offering tests now that can be done right on the spot. And if we have that, it would be easier to open things up and then test people before they come in. So any kind of news on that side of the equation would give the market more room and the economy more room to move forward. So we don't think you should be ultra conservative. We think you still want to have participation in case we do see the market move higher. But at the same time, there's a lot of uncertainty. And like you said, the election's coming around the corner. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know for sure what the virus is going to look like over the next several months, going into the winter months as well. And we are at all-time high. So again, hedging the portfolio, having the exposure to try to participate, but at the same time, make sure it's balanced and make sure that you're protecting yourself. I think those are keys moving forward through the next several months, because no one knows exactly how this is going to look come January 1st, let's say, of 2021.
I think you make great points, John. And also, I might just add that the fundamentals don't change. When you're laying out a plan, the fundamentals stay the same. You have goals, objectives. You have so much in resources. You're adding so much to it. You're going to take so much out of it, and that doesn't change. The allocation to equity stays the same. You might change. There may be changes between different investments, but your exposure to the market doesn't go up and down. You're not going to be timing the markets, wondering what's going to happen and what might not happen. That's not necessary to do.
We sometimes, and to that point, we don't think there should be big switches. But if you have, let's say, a moderate portfolio that might be 60% stocks and 40% bonds, one of the things that we might tend to do is that has a range. So in a market where we feel more confident, it might be 65% stocks. And in a market that we feel more conservative, it might go down to 55% stocks. So there could be some slight adjustments to that overall allocation, but you do not want to go from 60% stocks to 20, let's say, because you feel like you want to try to get out before things go bad. So, fine tuning, doing some tweaks, putting some different types of sectors in there might make sense. Technology has done very well this year, as we've seen, and we might see some dividend stocks start doing well as interest rates stay low and people are looking for yield. So there's things like that we can look at, but overall, as John Sr. said, we don't want to be making big moves in or out, and the fundamentals of the plan do remain the same.
All right.
And also, Cheryl, we've been working with Ophthalmology Times for over 20 years now. It's been our privilege to do so, and we have always offered your readers and your listeners to a retirement or investment analysis and not charge them for it. And many doctors have taken us up on that offer and gotten peace of mind for a second opinion on what they were doing, or they've had questions about their finances, and they're always welcome to contact us, either email or call, and we'd be very happy to answer the questions best that we can. And basically that's it. We're always there for our friends, the ophthalmologist.
Okay. All right, thank you. And certainly some very helpful and practical pearls for ophthalmologists in this uncertain time. We thank you both for your time, and we look forward to further updates from you in the coming months.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Great. Thank you very much, Cheryl. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
You too.